This is satire. Abvida. You know, the Snyderverse kind of ended like a Dragon Ball Z episode. With the death of Steppenwolf, our heroes have issued a challenge to the mighty dark side. Will Superman fall under the Dark God's control? Will the rise of Luthor's Injustice League spread the heroes too thin? And was Martian Manhunter just chilling and maxing while the world was ending? Find out on the next exciting episode of Snyderverse League. Unfortunately, the show was cancelled before we could get any of these answers, only to be replaced by what is the equivalent of Dragon Ball GT, James Gunn's DCU, which is one letter shorter than its predecessor, so you know it'll be inferior. The first official film in James Gunn's DCU is James Gunn's Superman by James Gunn, and it's a woke story made to pander to the pro-immigration modern audiences in some of the most blatant ways I've ever seen. As the title implies, the story revolves around Superman, who's just putting on his superhero boots. He's an illegal immigrant who ignores all the rules and does pretty much whatever he wants without any repercussions. I mean, you'd think Jimmy would bother touching a comic book. Now, the movie tries to trick us into sympathizing with the character because he's a straight white male, but make no mistake, he's about as authentic as claims that the Epstein files exist. No one lifts a finger against him, even though there's sufficient evidence that he poses a threat. He interferes in the politics of sovereign nations by routinely crossing their borders. He never shows anything resembling a visa when he returns to the US. And, come on, he hangs out with a group called the Justice Gang. Clear evidence of criminal history. Speaking of the Justice Gang, the shenanigans involving this group are laughable. It consists of a red-blooded American straight white male, a black man so down with black power he put a black face on top of his black face.
Darkness, everybody!
But God forbid Billie Eilish celebrate her roots. And a short, chubby Latina flying around with a giant maraca. Yet they still debate over who should be considered the leader, even though the choice is glaringly obvious. Speaking of DEI hires, the movie obviously wanted a limit on the amount of white characters, so somebody had to be race swapped. And since the editor-in-chief is literally named White, he was first in line and got diversified to Perry Black. One of the straight white male characters they kept is Jimmy Olsen, who unfortunately has become an insert for the soy boys of Hollywood, who couldn't get a date if they were a calendar. So Jimmy becomes the fantasy of every geek basement dweller, a mid-aloof young man who, despite his lack of social skills, seems to, as the kids say, rizz up the girls. Kind of like how Jimmy Gunn was surprised he could land a woman as hot as his wife. I'm sure his Hollywood director's salary and the ability to cast her in every project he's involved in had nothing to do with that. Over the course of the film, Superman finally gets a taste of what every modern feminist should: accountability. And instead of wasting taxpayer dollars by giving him due process, the government orders him to be deported to El Salvador. Detained in a pocket universe, justice is served until Superman and a fellow detainee escape, destroy the private facility, and leave to cause havoc on the white streets of America once again. Superman continues to prove the threat of immigration when it's revealed that his parents actually sent him to Earth to destroy our culture and replace it with his own. Now, where have I seen that before? Even with his face plastered all over screens everywhere, no one is able to deduce that Kal-El is actually Clark Kent, not even seasoned reporter Perry Black. The movie also has a few girl boss moments because we have to tick off all the boxes after all. Lois Lane is presented as a competent reporter on Clark Kent's level, which is highly implausible. He may be an alien, but he's still a man, so there's no way a woman could ever measure up to him. Lois Lane enlists the aid of the Justice Gang's DEI members, because the white man has too much common sense to help free a detained person. Are we sure Mr. T is the most intelligent member? Anyway, Lois and the gang enter the detention center. Mr. T does some sort of improv hip-hop dance and smashes everything in sight with his balls, and the illegal immigrant is freed. Hooray! Lex Luthor, however, is one step ahead of the game and unleashes the Engineer and Ultraman to bring the rogue Kal-El back to justice. Obviously, Engineer's taken out first. Being a Latina means she lacks the capacity to understand all that sex she's hauling around and use it efficiently. Stick to hauling around other things. Speaking of Lex Luthor, the film heavily insults him because, God forbid, we have a competent white man on screen. His entire scheme is foiled because his girlfriend has secretly been snapping pics of his plans under the guise of selfies. Really? One of the most intelligent characters in the history of comics is thwarted by an airhead Instagram model? Really, James? This is once again proof that the only way girl bosses could possibly work is if the male characters around them are written like complete idiots, even if it contradicts their long-established nature. And as a result, the movie has little screen time left for the only female character we'd like to see more of, for obvious reasons. What was I saying again? Oh, yeah. The third act is muddled with way too much going on because all the PC boxes need to be checked. Gotta have peace in the Middle East, dispose of the evil clone, save Crypto, defeat Ultraman and the Engineer, then confront Lex Luthor and arrest him for doing his job. Wasn't the pocket dimension prison sanctioned by the government? I mean, that's like asking for 20 shots of tequila and blaming the bartender when you get drunk. The end of the movie provides some hope, however. Superman seeks comfort in images of his Earth parents rather than his Kryptonian ones, meaning he's slowly dropping his heritage and replacing them with more respectable values, because the only way to be a good immigrant is to completely abandon who you are. Last call before I close up for the night. Supergirl shows up in a post-credit scene, busting through the fortress wall thoroughly plastered. Damn, that's the kind of woman more screen time needs to be dedicated to. The stage is set with many secrets revealed, but many questions left unanswered. Can James Gunn's DCU be more than a vehicle for the Walking Dead? Is there a truth about the Kryptonians that is yet to be revealed and redeem them? And will the Boozer get his hands on Supergirl's phone number so they can chuck back point after point together under the soothing touch of a red sun? Find out on the next installment of DCU. Alright, story's over. Get out.